What's in our control? What can we actually influence? What's up to us? It's such a tricky question, because really what is in our control is what we are doing, what to some extent what we are feeling, what's going on inside of us, what we allow to enter our mind, what we choose to lean towards or move away from. And what's not in our control is everything else. We cannot control anybody else's behavior. We cannot control the state of the world. We can work passionately to influence it. We can work passionately to influence other people, try to change people's minds about what's right and wrong. And I think a lot of that work is really important. But a lot of people don't want to do that work because of a belief that they could actually control things. And that's impossible. So I think if we free ourselves from the idea that we can control with any degree of certainty anybody else's behavior, then we can live and work passionately, but not try to own the results of that. So this is veering into Stoicism very heavily. If you're familiar with it, you will have noticed. The existentialists encourage us to make choices, to actively engage with life, to find a passionate project, to find a project and engage with it passionately. Right? There is a will to meaning, according to Viktor Frankl, for example. He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow, wrote Nietzsche. Frankl echoed it later. When we choose that something is meaningful, we make active choices towards it. And we take responsibility for that. We live more fully, we live more passionately in that way. And it almost doesn't matter what project it is, as long as you decide that that's a meaningful project. So I believe that really is helpful if we free ourselves from the idea that other people need to share that meaning. So again, you cannot control other people. Just because you find something meaningful doesn't mean that other people are going to be on board. And you can try to influence them to be on board and believe in the same thing, or you can look for the people who are already on board and you connect on that why basis. What a powerful core for a relationship. If you have a big project that you both believe in, that you both want to contribute to. If it's a whole organization that wants to contribute to that passionately, what a beautiful organization, what a beautiful team, what a beautiful family, what a beautiful group of friends. Whatever the group is, it's very, very powerful. But sometimes things change. Sometimes because of experiences that we have, things that happen to us, or just by growing older, maybe reading a book, hearing a podcast, having a conversation with a friend or a stranger who radically challenges our way of living and thinking. People change. People change all the time. But we desperately try to cling on to our old patterns of meaning and purpose, of who we once were, because we liked ourselves back then, but now we're no longer that person. So I think it's important, but yet such a scary thing, to continuously check in with who you are becoming, because it's much easier in a way, or much more comfortable, much more attractive to have figured out who you are and then stay that person. Nobody can stay the person that they are for very long. You may have connected with a sense of purpose that prevails throughout your life, and your life's purpose is this thing. But for the majority of people, life's purpose changes. Because we are growing, we're evolving, we're always shifting, and paradigms shift all the time. So something you believed 20 years ago may not be what you believe anymore. But if you're not doing the work along the way, then when you're 40, you hold on to some of the ideals you had when you're 20. And it's a scary thing when you realize that you're not that person anymore, but you've been living your life like you were that person from back then. And now you're being inauthentic, and that's tough because people got used to how you are and who you are. And maybe it means that now you need to be in a different job. or with different friends or in a different country, make some difficult changes in their lives. And that's often what happens in the famous midlife crisis, or when the kids leave the house and all of a sudden you're with yourself, or something like the COVID-19 pandemic hits and all of a sudden you're sitting at home with yourself, not being able to distract yourselves with friends or partying or work. And you realize, oh, there's a gap between who I think I was this whole time and who I seem to actually be. My thoughts, my emotions don't fit my story anymore. Maybe there's some anxiety or some feelings or some tic I developed, maybe an illness that I can't explain, that doesn't have any grounds in physical causes. Something that tells you something's not quite right, and that's worth exploring. So again, I would encourage all these people who might listen to this to listen to that, to not wait until you can no longer ignore it, to make space for reflection and slowing down every now and then, taking a step back and exploring, who have I become? How am I living my life? What are the choices I make based on? How may my principles have changed or not? What do I believe now? How do I make sense of the world? Because if we do that work, then chances are much lower that we experience an existential crisis, or that we experience this collapse of meaning structures, that we fall into this hole, or we get depressed because we pay attention to who we are becoming.